Welcome once again to the Sports Crib. It is Thursday night, and we have some guests in the queue tonight. We're going to have Robert is going to visit us in a little while. I see Matt is already there. Tom, excuse me, Demetrius won't be with us tonight. I see my my DC connection is here tonight, along with Mr. Robert Reynolds. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Doing pretty good, man. Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Doing fine, doing fine. And how are you doing down there in the capital or close to it anyway?
Who is it for me? I don't know.
Yeah.
Where's Robert located?
I'm down in the Carolinas, man.
The Carolinas. Okay. Yeah, I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me come on again. It's really awesome.
Oh man, hey, we're talking about sports. It's going to be a fun night. I try to make our little get together a little fun. So tonight we're going to play a little truth or dare, as you guys saw in the little script that I sent. So before we do that, though, let's let Robert introduce himself. How are you doing tonight, Robert?
Well, like I said, man, I'm doing pretty good. You know, I know you're on the West Coast, so it's kind of little getting late here, but doing fine nonetheless, though, man.
Yeah, that's one of the things I find, when I have book guests like, you guys, and I'm from Pittsburgh, so I kind of, well, I mean,
That giveaway there.
Yeah,
No, that's not a giveaway at all, actually.
So, no, I moved out here, and I appreciate the 3 hours difference. For you guys, you night is kind of winding down. For me, it's kind of just starting. So it's but that's the thing about excuse me, prime time. That's one thing about it. You're in prime time. You don't have to, like your faces are here forever. So, let's kind of get started with some of a couple of them, and you can tell me the reason why you gave your answer, and I'll start with you, Matt. It's Matt, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's start here. The Cowboys should let Dak walk in free agency and trade up and draft a QB. Your thoughts, Matt?
Oh man. Yeah, Dak Prescott, I'm kind of, like sitting on the fence with him because it's one of those things where when he very first came in, I was like, okay, this is a guy that was put in a great situation. He had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, like period. He had, the best running back as well to like support him. And so I kind of felt like he was going into a situation that was already set up for success, basically. And then this past season was supposed to be the season he was going to prove himself, if he needed to get paid or not. Reports are out that he wants to be the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, the second. And do I believe he deserves to be paid as the second highest QB in the NFL? No, I do not think he deserves to be the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, but I do believe he needs to get paid. I think the Cowboys need to put some support behind him and show some love his way and stop threatening with the franchise tag and different things like that, because that can turn into a messy situation and can kind of break the relationship that he has with the team. And as you all probably know, anytime a player, especially at the quarterback position, starts feeling like they're not being loved or they're not appreciated, it turns into a quick turnaround of I want to be traded or I want to go somewhere else. So I feel like they need to keep him and worry about defense in the draft. We kind of talked about that on the episode last week, that they need to use all their draft picks to straighten up that defense. So stick with Dak, pay the man, not as much as he wants. Don't pay him as much as he's asking for, but pay him, and then focus on that defense so that way they can, win one of the easiest divisions in the NFL.
Oh man, the easiest division. Well, I'm glad Don's not here. Robert, what's your thoughts on that?
In my opinion, though, I think you have to keep Dak. Looking at there's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft that are, pretty, in my opinion, pretty good. But I just don't know if they're going to be Dak level right now. I think the Cowboys are kind of built. If they build their defense, I think they're set up for at least a playoff run. Their division is very weak. I don't care what anybody says; it's weak. So look at that right there. I think you maybe trade down, get some extra draft picks, and like you said, build that defense up. That's their their vulnerable spot right there. You got Zeke. The offensive line, I think, will be better, and the receivers are just fine with CD. So build that defense up, trade back, get some extra picks.
Yeah, when you look at the Cowboys, you have 3 wide receivers that could have, should have, would have 1,000 yards. I mean, look at the receiver. You got the second or third best running back in the league. Definitely the second best running back in your division. Even though I guess the best running back is with the Giants, but so much for that situation also. Robert, this will be yours. We'll let you have this one first. The Giants, they should draft offensive tackle Rashawn with their number 11 pick.
I think they do need help on the offensive line. I think you got to give Saquon some running room. It seems their offense is built around him. You need to protect Daniel Jones. I don't think Daniel Jones is the future. However, you need to keep your quarterback upright. It's kind of hard to take it's always a good safe pick to have to build up that offensive line. I'm all for them getting a tackle. Like I said, you got to have running room and you got to protect your quarterback.
Matt?
I'm kind of on the fence about this too, because I definitely agree with Robert that you got to keep your quarterback upright to have any type of success. But you were talking about Barkley being the number 1 running back maybe in that division. He'd be the number 1 running back if he could stay healthy. So I mean, if he's not staying healthy, Daniel Jones becomes the running back, and you don't want your quarterback to start becoming the running back. Like that's a recipe for disaster. I know people don't like drafting wide receivers so high, but it's just like, who is Daniel Jones throwing to right now? Like what? They have no big names ever since OBJ left, so they don't have anyone for him to even throw to. So I almost would rather them, get a good wide receiver with that pick, just because there's a lot of good wide receivers coming in this draft, and I think they could get someone at that spot. But they say, don't take wide receivers or running backs in the first round because you can always get them in later rounds. But I feel like the past 2 drafts have kind of been more QB and wide receiver, heavy. Like last year was the most quarterbacks and the most wide receivers ever taken in the first round, so things might be kind of changing and going a different direction going forward. So I almost lean more towards getting a good wide receiver for Daniel Jones to throw to.
Hey, I got to jump in.
Go ahead, Robert.
I'm not entirely sure what position or what pick they have. Can someone fill me in on that?
Uh, who's that? The Giants?
The Giants, correct.
Number 11.
Number 11. I
Yeah.
forgot that. I'm with him. If I'm sure there's a ton of receivers, get a receiver. You could do either or. I think you could go tackle or you go receiver. If you start to see one of those top receivers start to slide for any reason, or you see a lot of trade ups, they got to take them. If you see an Alabama receiver or Jamar Chase there at 11, it's a steal.
Well, okay. Hey, I did like Lamb last year. I had him on my fantasy team when you was talking about trading up. Um, Matt,
Yeah.
you mentioned wide receivers. So let's talk about the Eagles. Now the Eagles have a long history of giving players, especially linemen, that have a good reputation. They tend to pay them, but they don't tend to work out too well. I mean, you look at the wide receivers for the Eagles. You look at the running backs. I mean, up until last year, what Shady McCoy was still the major threat, right? So the Eagles don't pay to fix the offensive line, but draft wide receivers or linebackers.
Oh man, well, it's one of those things where the Eagles last year, I felt bad for Carson Wentz, and well, even the year before that, like 2 years ago, balls would hit the wide receivers right in the hands, and they'd be dropping them, and they'd be dropping big time plays, that would cost them the game, if they, a crucial fourth down, drop or in the end zone drop or something like that. I tell you what, if you are putting all your eggs in a basket that Jalen Hurts is your future and is your guy, you better get a wide receiver for him in the draft to throw to. I tell you what, he needs someone reliable because right now the only reliable receiver he has is their tight end, and who knows if he's going to be sticking around. So yeah, that to me, you have to go all in for your quarterback, and I'd say get a wide receiver as well for Hurts. He's got to have some help somewhere because second year growing pains, man. It's going to be on him.
Robert, what do you think about that? The Eagles. We were talking about the Eagles. Instead of going for an offensive lineman, draft a wide receiver or a linebacker. Might go. Might
I think
go.
they need to. I think they need to focus on linebacker. Their defense needs to get better. They give them somebody with some speed and some coverage. Their whole secondary was, in my opinion, atrocious. And their linebackers weren't that great either. I think I think you can basically pick the best defensive player available and be fine with that. However, I also think you could go receiver as well. It just depends on if who's available, right? There's a lot of good ones, but I think you look at if I'm the Eagles and I'm in the draft in the war room, I think I look at my position and who's available. If a defensive player is above any receiver, you take them. If you have a receiver that's slid a little bit, maybe you take them. But I think I would look defense. You can look at linebacker, but I think cornerbacks as well. Patrick Surtain if he's available. Junior. Just a name that you could throw out. But yeah, they need some help on that defense. So I think I would look defense, best player available. And then, if a receiver slides that is too good to pass up, you take them. What CD happened last year,
Okay. Sticking with you, Robert. The Washington football team. They should sign Cam Newton.
I have mixed feelings about this. I think they should. The Cam-Ron connection there, I think, is too good to pass up. Obviously Alex Smith was a great comeback story. I think he got released though, if I'm not mistaken. I saw something. So
Yeah.
now you have that open quarterback spot. I think it's time. I think it's time. Bring back Cam Newton. I know. I forgot the guy's name. I'm not a fan of the Panthers, but one of their was it Josh Allen came with them or something like that. I forget who it was.
Yeah.
One of their backups came with them came with Ron up to Washington. So, I don't know if he's got enough experience. I think you sign Cam Newton. I think it's safe to do that.
Matt?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Robert on that they need to jump on top of that just because of the Ron Rivera Cam Newton connection that they had when they made that Super Bowl run. You know, the Patriots just didn't know how to use Cam Newton at all. Like they were just clueless on what to do with him. And Ron has obviously shown promise in using him in the right situations in the right ways. And I think too it's a great way to kind of transition into getting a quarterback in the draft and trying to have him like learn under him and kind of go down that route because like Robert said, Alex Smith officially left the team because he complained about that he was a wrench in their plans and so he wants to go somewhere else and kind of be a starter again. And, I guess he knows that he's not going to have that with the Washington football team. So yeah, definitely sign Cam Newton, try it out and see if that connection is still there. And like I said, I think it's a great way for them to be able to get someone in the draft, whether it's this year or next year, and start having them learn under them. So.
Matt, the next one, let's see, who are we talking about here? We're moving on to the next division here. Let's see. The Bears. They should trade. They should trade for Zach Ertz.
I mean, Zach Ertz. Yeah, you should always go for him. Do the Bears really need him? I mean, no. There's a lot of areas more so that they need than tight end. That I think they have some comparable tight ends for their team right now. They need to focus on who's going to be their quarterback. So I think they have some other positions that they can work on getting better than at tight end. So obviously he's a top tier tight end. I'd say he's top 3. So you got Kelsey, Kittle, and then him, in my opinion, in that order. So could you go wrong with getting them? No. Would it help improve their team? Yeah. Is it needed? I don't think so.
Your thoughts, Ron?
I don't necessarily think they should go with Ertz. I know they need to focus on the quarterback, but now's the time. You have Roquan Smith. You have a solid defense for at least in my opinion. You need to focus on your offense, and honestly, the best way to do that is develop through the draft. And I think one of the best things you could do, outside of the quarterback, if you take, say, for instance, Kyle Pitts, you're filling that position that Ertz would be filling, but you could also slot him out at the wide receiver. Kid's too versatile not to put him where you want to in the, on the field. So maybe you draft him with your first round pick. He's definitely worth that first round grade. You pick him up and then you can focus on a quarterback. I know after you have your top 4 or 5, then you may start worrying about it. But I think, even if you, maybe pick up a free agent or something this year, right? Just for the 1 year, there's several quarterbacks that's going to come out next year. Obviously we don't know the positioning of the draft for next year. But I think you could pick up a quarterback next year. Hey, I'm a Dogs fan and JT Daniels is going to be out there. I'm pretty sure. I expect him to have a great year at Georgia, and I'm going to see him go high in the draft. So who knows? You know what I mean? There's always going to be quarterbacks next year too.
Hey, all right. I hear you. Bill has now joined us. How you doing, Bill?
Welcome to the party, Bill.
You're on mute right now. We can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay.
Okay, we
I'm
got
here.
you now. Okay,
Sorry, a lot went on today. For those of you that don't spend your entire day doing Zoom calls, and I bet a bunch of you do nowadays, man, I mean, I love you guys, but man, if I have to speak into another computer, so I have. This day has been like, and some of them have overlapping, like, oh crap, this was supposed to have ended 5 minutes ago, and now this thing's starting. It's like, hi, no, I'm not talking to you. I'm still talking to them. But yes, I am very much here. And Robert, I am going to say this because I think I can trust you when I say this to you. I actually like the next quarterback class better than this quarterback class. And most people are all super excited about this class. I think next year's class is going to be great. Now, it might not have,
it's deeper. It's
a
lot more talented. You have this year's draft class.
Yeah.
This year's draft class, you've got your Justin Fields, you've got your Trevor Lawrence. You can look at Mac Jones. Kyle Trask is another name. Trey Lance and Zach Wilson. But after that, it kind of just dies out.
You can go down to guys like Zach Thomas. You can go. I mean, there's other guys in the class that I think will hang around the league, if not as starters and as backups. But when you look at next year, I think Keaton Slovis is going to open a lot of people's eyes. Sam Howell is a baller. I mean, there's so many good quarterbacks. And then all of the smaller schools will be back. So a kid like Akil Glass that most people haven't even seen is going to be opening people's eyes. If you haven't seen Akil Glass, go watch Akil Glass.
What about Jaden Daniels from Arizona State?
He's a baller. But there's a kid at Southeast Louisiana who is a monster. I mean, kind of a Ben Roethlisberger type, but an even better athlete. Imagine a more athletic Ben Roethlisberger. There are so many good quarterbacks.
Right now, I'm more athletic than Ben Roethlisberger. but that's
whoa,
but and I'm not an outsider, but hey. Anyway, Bill, we're playing a little truth or dare here.
Okay.
And right now, we're talking about the Chicago Bears.
Oh, boy.
Truth or dare, they should trade for Zach Ertz.
I mean, that feels like the old classic line about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Like, that's like what for what? It used to be that was Washington's job to give guys a nice cushy semi-retirement kind of situation. What if you need a tight end? Why not draft one? I mean, Zach Ertz is a nice all-around tight end, sort of in the Jason Witten mold. But like Jason Witten, he's a couple years younger. But like Jason Witten, he's clearly on the back, not even the back 9. I'd say like the back 3, maybe 4 of his career. It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, so for me, it's a false. I would not do that. That's not a deal I would make.
Okay, so I'm going to stick with you, and we're going to go back the other way. Let's see. The Lions, they should draft the quarterback with the 7th pick.
Well, see, I'm going to split the difference with them. Should they draft a quarterback? Yes. With the 7th pick? No. They should go after one of the guys that's around a little bit later, like Kellen Mond might be, and try to develop him. This team is not a quarterback away, kids. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but they've got other needs. It's like, once again, since I guess it's an analogy night for Bill Carroll, it's like someone saying, we've got this great entertainment system, but your house is on fire. But look at the entertainment system. I mean, why don't you put the fire out first? Why don't we do that? So the Lions, in my mind, should put the fire out first and then get an entertainment system.
What do you think, Robert?
I agree. I think you play it safe. I don't think the quarterback is their biggest issue. You got DeAndre Swift. In my opinion, had a very good rookie year. I think he's probably going to be the lead guy coming into this upcoming season. The receivers, I think are okay. They're obviously manageable with Galladay and company. But, I think you look at, get in the trenches, get you an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman and solidify, the front. And everybody knows it. The game is won in the trenches. So you can't go wrong picking one of those spots. Now, when it comes to the defense, I feel like you have to be a little bit more careful. But, offensive line is never going to be a bad pick. Nobody's going to judge you for picking an offensive lineman for sure. So play it safe.
Matt?
The Rams fan in me says yes, they need to get a quarterback because they just took Jared Goff. But putting that to the side, I agree with them too. Yeah, definitely. Poor Jared Goff. He kind of showed his colors of what happens when he's not protected very well. So, going to Detroit, he's not getting any love when it comes to that. I think he had a better offensive line with the Rams than he's going to have with the Lions. So he needs someone to protect him for sure. So yeah, I would definitely go offensive line and try to get him a little bit of protection in there. The other, I mean, do I think the Lions will do that? Probably not, because they're not the greatest at drafting people. I mean, they've had years where they've drafted like 5 wide receivers. And it's just like, why do they need all these wide receivers? So or they'll pick a wide receiver every year in the first round every time. So the only one they hit on was freaking Calvin Johnson.
Good hit though.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame, so that was a good one. But
too bad they waste their careers.
Yeah.
Stafford.
Yeah. And they definitely need to get wide receivers, because I feel like with what Robert was saying, their wide receivers right now are heading out the door. I mean, they've already been messaging Stafford and saying, "Can we come play with you with the Rams?" So in my opinion, if I had a crystal ball, I would say a smart move for one of the wide receivers for the Lions would actually be to go to Arizona, because they just picked up JJ, and they get another wide receiver like a Galladay. That could put them over the edge. So
yeah, it's possible. Let's go to the Packers, Matt. They should extend Aaron Rodgers and prioritize his short-term window.
Yeah, I mean, short-term window is definitely correct with that statement. Aaron Rodgers, as much as he showed this past year that he's like, hey, I still got it. I won an MVP. Making it to the NFC Championship and winning an MVP is not going to cut it, especially for Packers legacy and what the Packers, what the tradition that Green Bay holds. They're either Super Bowl or bust. Do I feel like they need to keep Aaron Rodgers? Of course. He won the MVP last year. But the poor guy needs some help other than Devontae Adams. I mean, you got to get him some more help. He needs something. And I feel like if they get him a top wide receiver, a good solid number 2, then it could really open up things for them. I was hoping that they would go and get JJ, because I feel like adding that to that already great defense again could have taken them over the top. But they weren't able to reel him in, even being a Wisconsin boy, which I was kind of surprised. So yeah, the other money, yeah.
What do you think,
buy all
Robert?
the cheese I want now.
What do you think, Robert?
I'm going to say this statement, and if there's any Packers fans out there listening to me, you will feel this course through your veins. Draft a receiver in the first round. 2002, Javon Walker. That's your last receiver that you drafted in the first round.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback with immense talent. We know that. I think he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Well, yeah.
You pissed him off, in my opinion, drafting his backup with your first round pick when you had one play pretty much to dictate your chances at a Super Bowl. You draft his backup. I get it. They did it with Favre with Rodgers, right? Makes sense. But with the short term window, like you said, you extend him, you make him happy. LaFleur is the best option available in regards to a coach with him. Draft a receiver. That's all I'm going to say. Draft a receiver.
Bill?
Well, here's what I'll say. They should definitely draft a receiver. They might be able to get away with not going after one in the first round. They could get a pass rusher. But they should definitely draft some receivers. So maybe you get a pass rusher in the first round. Like you look at the things where you might not, but there's a big drop off. There's not a big drop off with the wide receivers. People are going to get studs in the 80s. And heck, some guys, if you drafted pick 114, who's going to be in the Pro Bowl 3 times. There's a lot of good receivers in this draft class. So maybe you don't get one in the first round. There's a lot of good receivers to be had. Tutu Atwell is not going to be in the first round. He's going to be a baller. There's a bunch of good receivers that are going to be. I mean, Dimey Brown might be a second rounder. He might end up being the best receiver in the class, and he probably won't go in the first round. So you don't have to get one in the first round, but you have to get one. In fact, you have to get a couple. That'd be my approach. You get your pass rusher and maybe a pass protector, depending on how the board falls early, and then you hit on a receiver, and then maybe a couple of rounds later, you look at one of the developmental tight ends, like maybe around round 5 or round 6, Casey Angeline, the former USC transfer to NC State, who is a future beast at tight end. He needs some refinement, but he's going to be in a couple of years. So there's things you can do without going early. You just have to be good at drafting. Not every team's good at drafting. But if you're good at drafting, you don't always have to go early and still get great players. But they do have to improve the team. That's your real job. Make Aaron Rodgers happy is, important. But the first thing you have to do is improve your team. What can you do to make your team a better team? If you have a better pass rush, maybe you get your hands on Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. when you see him in the playoffs. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to be Superman. So there's things you can do even in other positions that help your quarterback.
Speaking of other things you can do, the Vikings, Bill, they should sign defensive tackle Leonard Williams.
I don't hate Leonard Williams as a player. First of all, partially because, fight on, right? Former Trojan. Kid out of Fresno. I've been following his career since he was 16, 17 years old. Very familiar with him. But he's kind of a tweener. He's a guy that you can play inside. He can play 5-tech, 4-eye. You can play 3. Versatile, but he's not amazing at any one thing, but he's a good football player. So it depends on the price. It's like, I hate to sort of equivocate. If the price is right, then yes. If you can get him for the right price, yes. If you talk about breaking the bank, no. He's not a break the bank kind of player. To me, he's not a break the bank kind of player. He's a if the price is right kind of player. Yeah, pull the trigger. If not, you go after Jarrell Casey. There's other free agent D tackles out there that you can probably get cheaper if you can't get him.
Robert?
I think you go defensive tackle. Basically, what Bill says. If it's a break the bank, you keep moving. You cut your ties and move on. If you can get them for a good price, you pick them up. I definitely think a good defensive tackle is going to help Daniel Hunter. I definitely think that'll help.
Matt?
Yeah, nothing I can really add to that. Bill hit the nail on the head. Yeah, if the price is right. That's pretty much how the NFL works in general, I think. If you can get a player for the price is right, you try it out. You can't go wrong, especially if you're getting them cheap. You try it, see if it works. If it didn't work, well, doesn't matter. You didn't spend that much. If it does work, hey, got something great for a good deal. So can't go wrong with that.
Well, let's let's keep on moving. Another division, the Atlanta Falcons, Matt. They should draft a replacement for Matt.
I have I'm sentimental with Matt Ryan just because they called him Matty Ice for a long time, and my nickname on my podcast is Matty Lukewarm Ice. So so I have some sentimental value with him because of his nickname, and then my nickname being based a little bit off of that. But when it comes to the Falcons, yeah, I think it's time to move on. I think to be nice to Matt Ryan, I think if the Falcons care about him, they need to help, put him on a team that's a quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl. He kind of deserves it. They had the choke city Super Bowl, against the Patriots. But that was I don't know how much that was on him. I think that was a lot of other factors that kind of went into them losing that Super Bowl. But
I don't think he played defense. I don't remember him playing secondary.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe maybe it was, maybe I was blind. I went to the to the cooler or something.
Well, if they decided to bring back two-way football in the Super Bowl, that might have been part of the issue. This might not be the game to try to introduce him to playing a little free safety.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like the Falcons would actually be doing him a favor if they moved on and kind of maybe just trying to set him up for success somewhere else. And the Falcons are.
You could just say the Patriots. You don't have to say somewhere else.
Yes, because I mean, I'm sure the Patriots would have.
It's a team you grew up rooting for. It just falls together so perfectly. You can just say it.
What do you think there, Robert?
Well, I mean, considering the fact that the Falcons are in a terrible cap situation, they have a completely new front office and management, a new head coach.
Yep.
I think you could go a couple ways here, and hear me out. You can draft a replacement. I think so. With a fourth spot, absolutely. Or, depending on how you're trying to navigate through your cap situation,
right? Yeah.
Restructure, or let them do what you got to do. You also have to look at Julio Jones coming off injury. Is he getting past his prime? Calvin Ridley, not necessarily the true number one receiver. He's a Bama kid. Maybe look at Devontae Smith. You never know. Obviously, I think there's so many options available. I think, honestly, if they don't go quarterback, I think you almost have to go best player available. There's too many holes in the defense. Their secondary wasn't that great. You have Deion Jones. You have Grady Jarrett. Olakun stepped up pretty good, but there's just too many holes, especially, considering their cap situation. I think it's time to, focus on the draft, get the best players, get the right players in the right positions, work that cap space to get you in a good situation. Everybody knows the changes to the cap limit this year. I think you have to figure out some moves, and, Matty's been good at restructuring. Does he do it again? We'll see. But, I could see it going either way. I think you have to look at, I think you would be able to pick them up, a replacement. I think you could. But I think knowing the Falcons, they'll pick a receiver anyway. That's just what they do.
Bill?
Well, I recently did a mock draft where I actually did project Zach Wilson there. I do think they could end up picking a quarterback. Now they might decide to see if they can, make it go another, sort of like we just talked about in Pittsburgh. Maybe another year or two out of this thing, maybe. But this team, in my opinion, should just go ahead and, what is it they said in the NBA? Trust the process. It may be time for them to embrace a full-on tear it all the way down, build it all the way back up. If somebody has an interest, great day. If somebody has an interest in picking up Julio, if somebody has an interest in, we just talked about, they like sort of immobile, tall white quarterbacks in New England. They didn't like the mobile, tall black quarterback quite as much. So you could maybe move him, right? He goes to New England. They get back maybe a couple of younger players and or maybe a draft pick. You could make some things happen. The Falcons are not about to win their division idiot. I mean, let's be very clear. Like, they're not going to win the division. Like, let's just start with that. So if you know you can't win your division, like, that's not in the cards. You probably not even going to finish second. You're not going to even finish second in your division. If the Panthers get better, you might not finish third in your division. So that's without deciding to embrace the rebuild. So if you're going to go probably about 6-10 or so, fighting for every win, is it that much worse to end up 4-12, 3-13, and embracing the, just embrace the suck? So maybe that's time to do that and start anew. Get yourself a young new quarterback. Get yourself some draft picks in exchange for some of your superstars. And yes, if you can help them by helping them to land in a good situation where they can win right away, all the better for everyone, right?
Yeah, so that's what they say. But it's interesting that you're talking about breaking the bank, and we're talking about defense and all that, because our next team is the Jaguars. Bill, splurge on that front seven.
They have still they don't have all of the defense they used to have. I mean, at one point they had a top, maybe the best defense, but certainly not beyond the top three for a while. Now, Jalen Ramsey's not walking that door anymore, and a few others have obviously stopped coming to that door. Yannick Ngakoue is no longer terrorizing quarterbacks, but that's still a good defense. There's still the structure of a good defense. And their offense is kind of an adventure. So there's some things you probably need to do there. DJ Shark, who is kind of the number one, would be a great number two. So they certainly should consider wide receiver early. Or if you really want to freak him, maybe Kyle Pitts early. So now you have, he's kind of a wide receiver, really. See, James and I are old enough to remember guys like Jerome Barkham, right? These guys were just born too early. I think Rich Castor and Jerome Barkham, they were just born too early because they were Kyle Pitts. But that was when the days when if you didn't block, you got dog cussed and benched if you were a tight end. And now they hug you and give you a big old, extension if you can't really block, but you could run routes like a wide receiver. So, and let me be fair, Kyle Pitts is actually a pretty decent blocker. But a lot of these modern tight ends are just kind of, big wide receivers. So they need everything. That's the good thing about being a terrible team, right? You can use everything. You don't have to, if you took a guard, that's not a bad pick. Your guards are bad. If you took a defensive lineman, that's okay. Your defensive line's not that great. It used to be, but whatever you take, it's going to help, right? We know that Urban Meyer is used to winning. I think he has, amongst guys who've coached as many games he might have the highest winning percentage. I have to go back and check, but if it's not the highest, it's in the top 3 or 4. He's up there with guys like Earl Red Blake back at Army in the old days. He's in that crazy stratosphere of the winningest coaches in the history of college football. So I wonder, because I don't know if you guys have heard this, he's kind of wired kind of tight. I wonder when his team has lost 4 or 5 in a row, if he will just completely implode. That's my real question, is will they end up having to draft a coach? Because he's never had a losing season. Listen to what I'm saying. He's never, ever had a losing season. He doesn't know what it's like to be on a team that's just bad. It's never happened, ever, to him. This team's going to be bad this year. Now, they might be better than they were last year, but they're still going to be bad. Don't get it twisted. So I wonder how that's going to work out. But yes, this team, they got rid of some of their problem children, if you want to call them that, whatever term you want to use. They managed to get out from under Blake Bortles. They managed to, Jalen Ramsey was one they shouldn't have probably moved on from, but they did. And I talked about Ngakoue. So they Calais Campbell. So Calais Campbell's, obviously getting older, so that one made a little bit of sense. But now they have this team with a college coach and a bunch of college players soon. A young team. They're doing or getting to what maybe the Falcons should consider doing, starting over kind of from scratch. They hit that reset button, basically, bloop, right? They rebooted, blue screen, it crashed. So they just decided, whatever, we'll wipe the operating system and reinstall. And that's what they did. They've got new software, baby. So the Jaguars are going to be a fun team to watch, though. Good? No. Fun? Yes. So I'll be interested to see how much of Urban Meyer's way of doing things it's going to be, because the college coaches that have had success, the Pete Carrolls, and he was once again a pro coach first. Matt Rule's having success-ish, but most of them had some pro experience of some sort. They might have been assistants. It might have been, quality assurance, something, right? Maybe they were a position coach. Urban has never even been like a copy boy, right? I mean, he's never been the guy that gets people their donuts. He's nothing. I have the exact same amount of professional coaching experience as Urban Meyer does. So it'll be very interesting to see how he navigates this world, because he's used to having a bunch of guys who look up to him as a father figure. Now obviously it's a young team, but some of the dudes on the team are fathers. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to be like, you're my daddy. No, I'm a daddy. I mean, they're going to have, a little different relationship with him that he's used to having, because you start recruiting these guys when they're 15 years old, 14 years old nowadays, and you watch them literally grow up. These guys are full grown. Yeah, that team's going to be fun and weird and interesting to watch.
Is there feedback somewhere? Somebody must be on.
What's up?
Robert just had a work emergency, so he'll be back when his work emergency has. I know the feeling, Robert. Nowadays, people don't realize just because you work from home doesn't mean you're always at work, even if you're at home.
But Matt, I still like that lukewarm ice.
I can't wait for you to drop that semi-fire mixtape.
Yeah. Yeah, Jaguars, I'm assuming, is what you want me to stick with, since that's what Bill was talking about.
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with Bill on a lot of that stuff. I think a different perspective or a different angle that I look at when it comes to Urban Meyer, especially in the college, is in college, as the coach, like you're the GM, you're the owner, you're everything.
Yeah.
And you get to go out and be like, I want this guy, or I want this guy, I want this QB, I want, I want this
player. Go to
player.
their house and tell them you want them, and you don't have to pay them a single penny. It's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And you come to the NFL, and then the owner says, well, this is who we want. I own the team. Or, you need to go down this route, or you need to go down that route. And then you have a GM who's coming in and saying, well, we want this guy, or we want that guy. Urban Meyer's not going to have all the control that he had in college, which, again, like Bill said, how much is that going to affect him? When is he going to lose his mind because he doesn't have control of every single aspect of the team? So it's going to be a lot different. And I think that's why a lot of college coaches struggle when they go pro, because they don't have that ability to do that, and they can't rely on being able to say, well, I put all my eggs in this quarterback's basket because I got to go and actually personally pick them. Does he probably have a little bit of say at who's going to get drafted first? Probably, but when it's a shoe-in like Trevor Lawrence, I mean, you don't. That's the easy part. Once you get past that pick, then it's going to start getting a lot harder on what to do and what control he's going to have over. Like you said, it'll be fun to watch them, but I'm almost a little bit scared that Trevor Lawrence is going to fall into a Joe Burrow aspect of he's just going to get annihilated. Like, he's just going to get sacked so freaking much that when are you going to decide, okay, we're putting our future at risk by keeping him out there, because Joe Burrow is definitely going to have a hard time coming back from that serious of an injury. Because it was a lot worse than a normal injury that you usually get. So, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out for them.
And Joe Burrow will still be the third best quarterback in the division. Just think about that.
Let that sink in.
So let's talk about the Saints there, Matt. They should actually trade Michael Thomas. What do you think?
I mean, how many games did he actually play last year? um, he went from, making history by having the most catches, in a season to not hardly playing last year, and not being that big of a factor. I Drew Brees spread the ball around so much that, uh he kind of got lost in everything. So I would say if you have some teams calling you and asking you about that, yeah, like I would definitely do it if I was the Saints. I would get the most that you could from it, and you still have Drew Brees that every single game the announcers at least mention once. That's the 8th different receiver that he's hit, or that's the 9th different receiver that he's hit. So like he spreads the ball around so much that I think they can risk getting rid of him and bringing some stuff in before Michael Thomas starts turning into an Antonio Brown, because I feel like it's going down that road, and it's gonna. I'm sorry, James. I know I shouldn't have mentioned his name. I'm sorry, but he's definitely turning into an Antonio Brown situation, and the Saints don't need that. And Drew Brees, I don't think he needs that, because he doesn't tolerate that kind of stuff with the type of quarterback he is, like on and off the field. So definitely, if you're getting calls about him, take advantage of it.
Robert, what's your thoughts on the Saints? Should they trade Michael Thomas?
Well, honestly, I think you field offers at least. Depending on what people are willing to pay up. Maybe that make that decision there. I think Drew Brees is going to be gone either this year or next. So, you really need to start looking into the future. So if you do, if you get the right amount of draft capital, I think you make that move. You got enough receivers to be sufficient. I know there's still some holes that they need to soak up in the draft. And I think, maybe you kind of bulk up on some receivers, to soak up some of that loss there if you do let them go. Definitely, definitely helps in the cap situation. The Saints are ridiculously above the cap limit, so they've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
And and like you said, it seems like he is starting to become Antonio Brown. So maybe it is best. I think you kind of have to at least look at it though. And I think that's what you can look at from there. Guys, I have to head out as well. I just wanted to say thank you for the time and allowing me to come on. And I look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, let us know where they are. They can find you on social media, and any last words.
Yeah. Well, you can find me at Twitter. You can find me at Twitter at GATA Podcast. Also, am the host for that podcast, GATA Podcast, anchor.fm/GATA Podcast. Just find me there.
All right. Well, hey, man, come back next week or whenever you want. Just let me know. I'll send you a link. And hey, we welcome everybody that wants to talk sports, man. So
Hey, fair
you have
enough.
a good night, man. You have a
You too,
good
guys.
night, and we'll see you next week or whenever you can come back.
Heard that, man. Y'all have a good night, guys.
Take
All
care.
right, man.
See you later,
Yeah. Well, Bill, your thoughts? Michael Thomas.
Well, I have some news for everyone. Michael Thomas plays wide receiver. Let that sink in, right? So once you realize that he plays wide receiver, he's just being a wide receiver, people. Like, what's the problem? This is what we do. It's a wide receiver thing. That's what they do. I would be more worried if he wasn't acting like a wide receiver. So I'm not worried about that much. Now, they have to ask essentially everybody, like every conversation they'll be having the offseason with every single player is, we really like you here. We'd really love to keep you. Would you play for this much? Because that's what all the conversation is going to have to be. Would you be willing to play for this much? Because everybody's going to have to make a decision about how much were you willing to play for. They have an epic. The word that comes about is epic. An epic cap problem. I mean, stare at it. Let it overwhelm you. Let it just surround you on all sides. Just try to absorb the enormity of their cap issue. They literally would have to cut like 18 dudes to get under the cap. I'm barely exaggerating. I mean, barely. They're going to have to restructure almost every player they have under contract, except for like the lowest priced dudes. So yeah, if you're like covering kicks, you might be safe. But a lot of the guys, the big names, the guys whose names you know, are all going to be asked to take a pay cut. Every single one of the guys that if you've ever worn that guy's jersey and he plays for the Saints, that guy is going to be asked to take a pay cut. Every single one of it. And the ones where they can cut them without getting absolutely blown up worse on the cap hit, they're going to end up cutting them. Now, that's not the situation with Michael Thomas. Where he is in that contract, you can't just cut him. So he's not going anyplace. Now, you asked about trading him. Well, once again, I mean, Packers. I mean, there certainly are teams that at least should make a call if he's, available. Yes. Patriots. There are certainly some teams that should at least get on the phone if there's a chance that he might become Texans. If there's a chance that he might become available, there are definitely some teams that should pick up the phone. But you're going to want a lot back for him. Now, obviously, teams kind of know that the Saints have a terrible cap situation, so they may try to sort of lowball them, understanding that this team needs to unload some salary. So they might end up – the first few offers might be a little bit on the insulting side until they make it clear that, no, we're not going for that. But, I mean, they're going to have this conversation. I mean, everybody, like Drew Brees, if he decides he wants to try to come back, it's like, oh, gosh, Drew, we love you. You're amazing. You're basically the king of New Orleans. Would you be willing to pay for this much? I cannot stress to you how bad their cap situation is. Like, I'm not exaggerating. It's as bad as I'm saying it is. Like, it really, go and look up on Sport Track, right? If you think I'm lying to you, look it up. It is an astonishingly bad situation. It makes Pittsburgh's situation look like nothing.
Gee, that sounds really assuring there, Bill.
Well, I mean, it's like you're feeling bad because you just broke your leg, but then you turn to your friend, can you help me? And realize your friend's on fire.
So do I? Well, no, man. That's another. No, anyway, let's go to the Buccaneers then. Bill, let Shaq Barrett walk.
I mean, you're going to do everything you can to not let Shaq Barrett walk. Now, they should have done something before it got to this point, to be perfectly honest. There's always this game of, the whole risk-reward thing. When even before a guy's contract is up, you come to him about an extension. And, I mean, obviously, in the case of, say, the Eagles, it didn't work out so well with them, with their quarterback, when they said, hey, we're not even done with your deal. We love you. We're going to extend you now. Okay, we're going to tear this up, Carson, and boom, new deal. Sometimes it bites you in the behind. Sometimes, like with Dak Prescott, both sides end up getting burned by the whole, we'll keep pushing it, kicking the can down the road, kicking the can down the road, kicking the can. Oh, the can kicked back. So in the situation that we now find here, I think they should have come to Shaq before this and said, hey, we're going to, tear, quote unquote, tear up your deal, which is not actually what happens, but we won't get to the legalities of it. But but essentially they would have created a different deal, probably tried to shift some of that money from salary. I would have tried to shift some of that salary at least to things like signing bonuses, roster bonuses, workout bonuses, and then maybe some things that if he hits certain numbers, and he's had some really good years, then he earns some of that money in bonuses as well, things as well. But now they are where they are, right? They have a super team. Like, there's no two ways around that. And when you build a super team, see, this is not like the Steelers of the 70s, the Cowboys of the 70s or 90s. There's a salary cap nowadays. Once you've built a super team, it's very hard to keep it together. So they're going to have to kind of play the game I said before. Only have to be a little more generous. I mean, the number will have to be a little larger. They may need two hands for the number because Shaq Barrett is a fairly young player who's been super productive. So you can't low ball him like you could do with Drew Brees or something. I mean, some of these guys are going to have to basically ask them, will you play for the least amount we're legally able to give you? Now, in the case of Shaq, that's not going to happen. They're going to have to give him a decent offer. But he's maybe offered a better offer. So you just have to tell him, hey, we love you here. This is all we can afford. Please. I mean, I guess that's kind of how that is. Like, that's all we have. Are you okay with that? You know?
Matt, what did you think, Matt?
I mean, I guess it depends like how desperately the Bucks really want to keep him. You know, if they're thinking, hey, we want to make another run, and he's going to be the person that's going to primarily, you know, help make that happen on defense. You know, you bring Tom Brady into the meeting room, you let Tom Brady show all of his rings, and you say, hey, you want another one of those on a ring on your hand? Then you're going to play for this much. So, I mean, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, some players you have to, you know, see if they care more about the money or they care more about winning and see which one outweighs what. Tom Brady proved when he was with the Patriots that he cared more about winning than money for the longest time, but he was married to a supermodel who paid for a lot of stuff. So, I mean, that did help. But
so unless, in addition to bringing Tom Brady, you're going to bring a supermodel who might be willing to marry Shaquille Barrett, because that might seal the deal. While we're at it, before you answer,
yeah, just bring in. I'm sure Tom Brady's wife knows plenty of supermodel friends. Just bring one of them in.
Now that's how you bring in free agents.
Yeah, exactly.
Guys, look, we can't, you know, like promote pandering on this program.
No, I'm not promoting it. I'm simply saying that it might happen.
So you went from lukewarm ice now to
maybe a little hot water. Maybe a little hot water.
Yeah, turn it up.
Matt, the Cards, they should re-sign Patrick Peterson and Hassan Reddick.
Man, well, they just got JJ Watt, so I mean they're kind of, you know, going all in on trying to you know, win now, which most teams are trying to do, obviously. But it's one of those things where you got to keep the veteran presence on defense along with, you know, JJ Watt. So yes, I feel like they need to re-sign those people. They need to keep them because you know, their defense is kind of what's held them back, you know, when it comes to, you know, getting over that hump and, you know, going farther in the playoffs and stuff like that. I really felt this past year was going to be their year. I thought they were going to get in. They barely missed it. I think next year is, if they play their cards right and they keep the defense that they have and they keep these people, then they're going to be able to go far. I kind of mentioned earlier with wide receivers, if they can bring in, you know, some of them free agent wide receivers or one of the wide receivers from the Lions, I feel like that could solidify a number 2 wide receiver for them. You know, because Hopkins obviously is going to be getting all the love, all the attention, and kind of you know, help them get to where they need to be. So yeah, I definitely think they need to re-sign them.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, ironically, right, the one who's the young, productive player is, of course, Hassan Reddick. And he's the one that, well, we'll see what happens. And here's the thing. Hassan Reddick can play a bunch of different positions. I've watched him, you know, his entire career at Temple. Shout out to Matt Rule. And, now he's in a situation where they finally used him correctly. They tried to make him into a true stand-up linebacker. Hey, why don't you drop into coverage? Hey, why don't you do this, hey, run fit over here. And they said, oh, we just realized you're a pass rusher. Well, did you not watch him in college? He was this awesome pass rusher. Like, you decided to make him into all these other things. No, he's not Levante David. Like, stop doing this. So here's the thing why I think they should still keep him. I think I said this before. If I didn't, I'll say it again. JJ Redick should play about 35% of the snaps because you'll get way more out of him if he plays 35% of the snaps than if he plays 70% of the snaps. He's at a point in his career, he can still do a lot of things. What's his name? Not Travis Tritt. I can't remember the country singer, but he actually played in the USFL for 1 year. The singer I'm thinking of. But the song is, I'm not the man I once was, but I can be the man I was once. So at this point in his career, J.J. Watt can't do J.J. Watt things all the time. But he can do J.J. Watt things occasionally. If you play him less, he'll be able to do that a little more because he's not as tired and as beat up. Hassan Reddick is his physical peak. Like, this is as good as he's going to be. If you let him walk now, he's going to be amazing for somebody else. I love Patrick Peterson. We all love Patrick Peterson, but he's what's the word I'm looking for? Done. So I shouldn't say done. I mean, he can still play, but he's no longer, I would say not even really he's a lower level starting corner. He is a below the middle line now starting corner. Not way below, just slightly below. He is easier to replace than Hassan Reddick is. So if it's up to me, I would do whatever I could to keep Hassan Reddick. And for Patrick Peterson, I mean, once again, I wouldn't just push him out the door. It'd be one of those, I'm writing a number. Would you be willing to pay for this much? I mean, at that point, because if he's willing to, sure. Now, he's probably not really a starter anymore. I'd probably pay him in certain packages. I'd ask him, hey, have you ever thought about playing safety? He's just at a point in his career where he's no longer an elite level coverage corner. That's just not what he is now.
I should have went the other way and started with Matt, but since Bill was going this way, Rams. The Rams should put everybody on the block except for Stafford, Ramsey, and Donald.
Well, I wouldn't put everybody on the block. Now, might I move on from one or two players in his chance if I had a chance to get younger at a couple of positions? Sure. I mean, Andrew Whitworth, God bless him, is playing at a super high level, well beyond. I mean, he should have. He thought about retiring like 4 years ago, and he's still going. But you've got to find the replacement. Like, you can't keep hoping somehow that this guy who literally looks like a grandfather can keep playing at that level. Like, you can't. Like, you've been very, very lucky that he's able to play this well this long, but that can't last forever. So if somebody's willing to, send you something back that'll allow you pick a really good future, left tackle, or is willing to give you a young left tackle, which people rarely want to do. But, I would be willing to listen to offers on some players. But no, this team is not that far off. Like, look how they've been here, right? Even with Jared Goff. If you are telling me that I'm going to now add a quarterback who is a 20 or so % upgrade in every single way that you can upgrade, tougher, stronger arm, has a better sense of how to be a playmaker, more clutch. I mean, all the things you look for, right? You're adding like 20% more in all those boxes. That means that it takes, hopefully, 20% of the load off your defense. Your defense doesn't have to hold people to 20 points. Now, if you give up 30 points, you might still win because your offense is better. So the things I would be doing if it were up to moi, if you were saying, Bill, fix this team, I would, when this team was at its very, 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 very best, you had someone besides Aaron Donald on the inside that was problematic. Now, if Michael Brockers is gone, especially if Michael Brockers is gone, you got to find somebody else like that. you've got to find at least one more really high quality exterior pass rusher, right? And could be through the draft, could be through like I said, if somehow I can draft, say, Jalen Phillips from Miami. Now we're talking. And I would really still try to upgrade the other corner position. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is a baller, and you don't have to be quite that good in the other position. But if you can find, sort of the Chris Harris to his Aqib Talib, right? If you look at the great cornerback tandems, you need one guy who is just everyone wants to avoid him guy, like, oh, let's not even throw the ball on his side of the field. But the other guy still has to be able to play, right? You can't just have them killing you on the other side of the field. So you do want to have the other player be, like I said, your Chris Harris. Find your Chris Harris. Once again, you can do it in the draft, or you can get him through or through a trade maybe, but maybe even free agency if you can free up the money to do it. But this team, this is not a team you should be blowing up. Like the Falcons, that's the team you should be blowing up. The Rams could contend. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why people are just convinced the 49ers will be automatically good. Like, that's not automatic, people. The Rams could very well be in business to win that division.
As a Rams fan, Matt, put us on the right road here.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't say blow up the team. I said put everybody on the trading block. Now, I'm sure there's a couple of teams that could use Cooper Kupp, Green Bay.
Oh, man. Yeah,
he was one of my fantasy stars. I love Cooper Kupp.
Oh gosh, yeah. Cooper Kupp is one of my favorite receivers on the team, and I think he went in and was just an instant, like, rookie year. He went in and just like blew it up, and I knew he would. I had him on my fantasy football team his rookie year, and he tore it up for me until and then he got injured. I feel like in a way we maybe could have had a better edge in the Super Bowl against the Patriots if Cooper Kupp would have been playing. I think that was a major factor of why we weren't able to do as well, because Cooper Kupp was, the security blanket for Jared Goff in that Super Bowl. But that's another topic. I could talk about that forever. But
maybe next week.
Yeah. The thing about the defense, and I liked a lot of the things that Bill was saying. Something I want to point out, though, about like the defense is, if you haven't noticed, Aaron Donald is one of the best defensive players like of this time right now.
Ever. In football, ever. I've watched football since before you were born. He would have been really, really good in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 40s. Pick an era. Yeah. Aaron Donald is a killer.
Yeah. He's a monster of a man. And one of the things about that is whoever is with him on that line is automatically better just because of his presence. You had Dante Fowler, blew it up with the Rams when he was on the team with them. Went to another team, not doing as good.
Right back to being Dante Fowler again.
Yeah, exactly. Leonard Floyd came on the team this year. Had the best season he's ever had as a player with the Rams because of Aaron Donald. And so, like you said, no matter who you get to be able to bolster it, whether it's through the draft, through free agency, whatever, they're automatically their game is going to be heightened because they have Aaron Donald next to them. So, it's one of those things where that doesn't concern me as much, because whoever it's going to be, they're going to play better and they're going to do better because of Aaron Donald. I feel like Jalen Ramsey, bringing up someone he needs like another person with him. I mean, John Johnson, he's
a good player, but he's not Chris Harris.
True. Yeah. But again, Jalen kind of just raised the game of everyone that he was helping in the secondary as well. Demarius Williams, who was he bounced from team to team, and then he came onto the team as a free agent. Tore it up for the Rams this year. He was one of the leading people for interceptions, and so it's one of those things where I don't know if that's more so because Brandon Stokely was the defensive coordinator and he did such a great job, and so that was a big reason, or it was because the players that were on the team. I don't feel like they really need to put anyone on the trading block. I feel like they got, Stafford, and they feel like that was, the missing piece. I feel like everything else can be filled in through the draft. Obviously, we got rid of a lot of draft picks, capital, just because of Jalen Ramsey and then because of Stafford now. I would actually, in the future, would love to see Sean McVay have a first round pick and see what he does with it. That he's never had a first round pick. And he didn't get to pick his quarterback. Jared Goff was already there when he came in. So, it'll be interesting to see with him now having Stafford. He kind of picked him. And to see, a first round pick in the future at some point to see what he can do with it. Because at some point, Sean McVay is going to be on the chopping block because he had the most explosive offense. He came in, he turned the team around, he got him to the Super Bowl. They weren't able to win it. But a lot of the blame got put on Jared Goff this year. He's going to have Stafford. And if they do the same thing and they don't have the success with Stafford, people are going to start looking at McVay more so than Stafford. So, yeah.
The 49ers, Matt, they should trade for Kirk Cousins.
Oh my gosh. No. They should not. I don't know. Bill's so good at making these comparisons tonight, or making analogies. You should help me out here making an analogy of basically.
So here's, when you go out and you get Kirk Cousins, here's what you're doing. You go to a luxury auto dealership and you say, I want a top of the line luxury sedan. And you're looking at Aston Martins, looking at Maseratis, you're looking at BMWs, you're looking at Jaguars, and then somebody gets a Kia that looks kind of like one of those, sells it for you at the same price. So you're rolling out there thinking you got a Maserati, or you got yourself a Jag or a Porsche, but you're driving a Kia.
Yeah, you're basically literally getting the same quarterback as Jimmy G, but a different name on the jersey. Like you're getting the same thing. And I feel like, Bill made the comparison with the Stafford trade that, you're getting 20% better in each thing that you're looking at for a quarterback. Are you getting any percentage better with Kirk Cousins than not having Jimmy G? I don't think so, in my opinion. I think you're literally getting the same quarterback. So if you're trying to improve the team by some percentage in each of the fields when it comes to a quarterback, what's the point of getting Kirk Cousins then? There's no point, because you're literally getting the same thing. So
what do we do it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, no, they should not get Kirk Cousins, because it would basically be like keeping Jimmy G around. There's no point. If they're trying to win now, if they're trying to win with that defense that they have when their defense is healthy, then Kirk Cousins is not going to help with that.
Bill, we're going to leave you with the Kia analogy there and move to the Seahawks. The Seahawks should not sign any pending free agents to big extensions. And we're talking about their free agents.
Oh, their own free agents. Okay. Right. Got it. Well, okay, two things. It depends on what you think big is. And as we all know, there's a lot of rumors about exactly what the cap's going to be. But it have not officially, unless it's happened, during the day and I missed it, told us exactly what the cap number is going to be. So that's the first thing. So it depends on how big is big. And the second thing is, of course, how much of the cap, if you're talking about big, how much of the cap that's going to eat up. Because once again, this team needs to do what? Upgrade their offensive line. Like, I feel like I've been saying this. How long I've been on the show, James? However many years I've been doing the show with you, it seems like I've been saying this every year. So you could just put on a recording of me saying this some of the other times when you've asked me about the Seahawks situation. well, if they could just fix their offensive line, hey, here it is in 2018. We got to fix that offensive line. Oh, 2019. So that's still true. All the things I've been saying about their offensive line, still true. And Russell Wilson, he's 32, I think. He's not old, but he's trying to get to the part of his career where he doesn't have to keep running for his life. Because at some point, you start thinking, hey, I would like to not run for my life. So the reason that everything that's currently happening is because Russell Wilson's looking at Tom Brady in Tampa, Tampa Bay, having just a fantastic time of it. Got an offensive line that's magnificent. He's got, well, not magnificent. Let me back up. An offensive line that, because they structure the offense that way the ball comes out fairly quickly, they rarely are able to get pressure on Tom, and he's so good at getting the ball out. So that's part of it. The offensive line isn't great, but it's good. They've got a couple of really great players though. Ali Marpet is a budding star at his position. Ryan Kelly's a terrific center. And Tristan Wirfs, who was my tackle one coming out, is going to be a stud for a decade. Pending, unless there's some sort of terrible injury, it's going to be a guy who's going to be probably a all-pro-ish level, or at least in that, amongst the guys who we talked about at all-pro level for about a decade. And he's looking at his offensive line, and he's like, there's this whole meme where a guy's walking with his girlfriend and then looking like this. Russell Wilson is walking with his offensive line, but looking at other people's offensive lines like, man, whoever's a quarterback with the Colts, look at what he's got. He can't help but think, gosh, it'd be kind of nice. Carson Wentz would be a better quarterback just automatically. Right? Just because all of a sudden people are going to be touching him on every play because he's getting touched on him. Like you had Russell Wilson, who was getting, just chased all over the place. And then not far behind him was Carson Wentz, who's getting hit like a pinata. So you have, I don't care who you are, if you're getting touched constantly as a quarterback, you're not be as good as you normally would be. All of a sudden, when you're not getting touched, you're going to be a much better quarterback. People forget, going back to Brady, when Brady looked human, what was always the secret? Not even sack him, but keep touching him. Keep making him reset his feet. Get him uncomfortable. Knock him around a little bit. And now he goes from being this football to just a quarterback. So if you can reverse the process where a guy isn't constantly going, right? And instead, he's able to go through his reads and his progressions, throw guys open, do a little this, a little that. Maybe occasionally he sidesteps somebody, but it's not, like the what they call the final girl, the last girl who's alive in a horror film. And she's figured she's almost escaped. She's heading back towards the door of the mansion after all her friends have been, hacked and slashed or whatever. And then, dun, 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 like something pops out from the side. When you're Russell Wilson, you've been that final girl too much, right? You think you might have gotten away. You think you might be okay. And then, you would like to be in a better situation. So Seattle needs to do, first of all, whatever it is you do to love up Russell Wilson and let him know, come on, Big Daddy, come on home. We love you here, right? All the stuff you got to do, whatever it is you got to do. You name stuff after, whatever you got to do, right? Hey, have you seen our new Russell Wilson Players Lounge? Whatever. Do all the stuff that doesn't violate the salary cap. You got to do that stuff, right? So there's no rule against naming stuff after him. That's not a violation of the salary cap. I've checked it out. I read all the regulations. Not a violation. You can find things you can do. You got to let him know you are the man here, right? Whatever we got to do to make you happy, we're going to do that. And then draft offensive linemen. What a wacky idea that is. Drafting offensive linemen. Who knew you could do that? So once you start fixing those things, Russell Wilson will stop acting weird, stop doing the whole girlfriend thing that he's been doing, and he'll go back because he's a really good guy, and he just wants to win. And he would like not to, once again, be a human pinata. So once you do those things, I think that'll all go back. Now, in terms of guys you would want to extend, you got to keep Russ. No, I mean, franchise quarterbacks are kind of rare. So you got one, you probably should keep them. They've got to upgrade pretty much a lot of things. I think they should upgrade the tight end position. Their wide receivers are pretty okay. Their running backs are pretty solid. The offensive line. They've started trying to rebuild their defense. They still need to add pieces there. So if it's me, once again, just me to fix the team. I'm alternating. Offensive line, defensive line. Offensive line, linebacker. Because they have good linebackers, but they're definitely going to get on the back half of their careers. Offensive line, defensive back. So I'm breaking it up. So it's not all offensive line. We don't get too bored with that. But you got to slide off something else in there. But offensive line, every other pick. That's what I'm doing.
What are you doing, Matt?
I'm waving goodbye to Russell Wilson because I mean, the report that I saw today, like I think he's going to be heading out the door, to be honest, just because the Seattle Seahawks are taking calls on him. If they were solid and like we're keeping him, we're going to name a wing after him. We're going to do all this stuff to keep him around, build a statue of him. I don't know. Whatever it takes. I don't think they would be taking calls, and they're taking calls on sending him elsewhere. So I almost feel like if he heads out the door, then like Bill said before, with some of these other teams, they're hitting the reset button, blue screen. They're if you get rid of him, you got to. You're basically saying that you want to restart. So you get as much draft capital as you can for him, or whatever you can get for him, and then you just scrap it and go from there and try to get the defense. Like you said, there's so many holes in defense. The only thing that's good on defense is Bobby Wagner, and
KJ Wright had a really good year too, but he's 32 or something, 33. Now, Matt, there's nothing wrong with what you're saying, but let me ask you a real quick question. Do you want to guess how old Pete Carroll is?
Yeah, like 80.
Right. So rebuilding sounds great when you're 45, maybe even 55, perhaps even 65. But when you are 70 or almost 70, a rebuild loses some of its excitement for you, right? I don't know if Pete Carroll wants to be thinking 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road when you're getting close to the end of your actual human life expectancy.
That's true. But again, it's not like college. If the owner says, "Hey, this is the route we want to go, and this is what we want to do," I mean, sometimes your hands are tied, and you don't really have much say in that. And of course, you can be like the Eagles' old coach, and just be like, "Well, I don't like management. I want out," and they kicked him out because he didn't have enough say, in the organization. But I just feel like the reports I'm seeing and the reports I'm reading, it's piling up more and more, against Russell and not for him. The Texans are like, for Deshaun, they're like, yeah, we're not taking calls. We don't want him gone. Like, he's staying, and they're doing everything they can to make sure that he's going to stay. But I feel like they're not putting in the same commitment for Russell to be able to, to say that he's going to stay. So I don't know. I have a feeling that, he's going to be heading out the door, and the reset button will commence. But I agree with you on the draft, though. I feel like it needs to be like offensive lineman, defense, offensive lineman, defense, because that, like you said, they're good at wide receiver. They got a pretty decent running back, but they need to fill everything else. Ever since the Legion of Boom got tore apart, it's gone downhill for the defense ever since then. So
I'm going to stay with you, Matt, since all you guys are talking about the offensive line. We're going to talk about the Dolphins. Matt, the Dolphins, trust your young line and trade back.
If they should trust their offensive line?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be a good idea, just because I mean they had a pretty decent team this past season. I feel like with such a high pick that they have, they could almost, get a, Devontae Smith and really tear things up, for Tua and give him another amazing weapon. If they feel like that he has enough weapons around him and that, they're able to continue the process that they've been on, then yeah, they could definitely trade down and get a different wide receiver in a later pick, get some more draft capital. But if I was, running the Dolphins, I would go for that one of a kind wide receiver that is there for the taking, and grab him now and show that, that Tua could possibly be the future for them. I know they're kind of on the fence with Tua. I feel like they took him out and put Fitzpatrick in, took him out, put Fitzpatrick in. They just kept on switching back and forth, and I never think that's a good idea for a team, especially for a quarterback, to give him confidence. I will always I don't like Lamar Jackson as a quarterback, but the Ravens did the right thing when they were in the playoffs and everyone wanted Flacco to go in the second half to give them a chance to win. They kept on saying, put Flacco in. And, Harbaugh stuck with Lamar, and he said, he's our future. We need to stick with him. And I think that really benefited and helped them. So I feel like the Dolphins need to take that same approach, and they need to stick with Tua, and they just need to leave him in even when he's playing bad or even when times are bad, so he can get that confidence and get what he needs to be able to put them over the top. Because now, in a blink of an eye, they're in a really tough division, especially with the Bills and Josh Allen. And who knows if the Patriots are going to, try and go and do something to make them competitive again. So,
what do you think, Bill?
I would like somebody to just do a quick little project where they look at what a guy like Terry Bradshaw or a guy like Phil Simms was looking like 6, 10, 15, 20, 25 starts into their career. I mean, I remember what Terry Bradshaw looked like in 1971. I remember what Phil Simms looked like in 1978, 79.
Or even Peyton Manning when he first started.
Right, even Peyton Manning, even though he wasn't playing well, you could kind of see it. Like, it was still clear he was going to be amazing. It's just going to take a little while. It wasn't so clear that Phil Simms was even going to be the starter. 3 years into his career, it wasn't clear he's going to be the starter. Terry Bradshaw was having quarterback controversies 5 years into his career. I don't know when we got to the point where we were thinking after half, not even a whole, less than half a season of starts, we think we know what a quarterback is. What? What? Like, I feel like I'm being punked. Like, but let me in on the joke. What? Like, you have no idea what you have. No idea. Okay, and to further add to it, hey, what was your off-season training camp like? Oh, wait, there was one? Well, how about OTAs? Oh, there weren't any? So you're going to tell me that you drafted a quarterback. He had 6 starts. He had no OTAs and no training camp, but you're ready to move on. Oh, you guys are hilarious.
Well, let's keep the fun rolling. Bill, the Pats, they should trade up for a quarterback.
They should take a quarterback. I don't know if they necessarily need to trade up. I think, and once again, we'll see how this actually plays out. People keep talking about, okay, well, I think we could see 2 quarterbacks. It's almost like a game of top this. I think we see 2 quarterbacks in the top 5. Oh, I think we see 3. Well, I can top that. I think we see 4. I think the first 5 picks will all be quarterbacks, So now it's just a game of like who many, like, people are just throwing quarterbacks into the top. Okay, so all the teams that don't need quarterbacks, well, they're going to trade down, right? So, like, they're just saying it like it's going to automatically happen, right? So teams don't automatically trade down sometimes, even when they don't need a quarterback. Fun fact. Some teams want to pick where they are even when they don't need a quarterback. So some of these scenarios that people are just throwing out there that are just automatically going to happen, fun fact, won't automatically happen. So you're not going to have all these deals that people are just imagining. Like, this isn't Madden, people. Not every NFL team is going to deal. Now, I do believe there'll be 2 or 3 trades in the first round. I believe that entirely. But there's not going to be 5 or 6 or whatever in the first 10 picks. Like, I'm sorry. As fun as that would be, once again, this is not a bunch of caffeinated 8th graders, and it's not Madden. So you're going to get a couple of deals. So we'll probably see 1 or 2 quarterbacks go, probably earlier than they should, like often happens. But I still believe there'll be some decent quarterbacks left when the Patriots are picking. So my answer to you is I believe they can stick where they are and still get a quarterback.
Matt, how do you feel?
I mean, when is Bill Belichick just been like, oh yeah, I really focus on offense. I'm such an offensive minded coach. Like, I mean I think the last time they picked someone pretty high was Jimmy G. And look how that turned out for him. They end up just moving on from him anyways. I think Bill Belichick is at an age, I'm not gonna say old. He's at an age though that he's set in a routine of this is what you do to win. This is what you do to succeed. He's always been known to cut people at the right times or let them walk at the right times. Stuff like that. He'll do what he needs to do and go try to find a quarterback in free agency. I liked Bill and Robert, some of the people that they mentioned could potentially, go to the Patriots this offseason. And I think that would be a way better option for the Patriots than drafting a quarterback. Maybe they could get a quarterback in, one of the other later rounds, like the 2nd or 3rd or something like that. But it's just not Bill Belichick's MO. So I don't see him changing how he does things. I think he's going to stick with what he knows, and what he knows is going out and getting a quarterback that's already proven, or one that he feels that he can groom, or a system quarterback, get into his system the Patriot way. That's just who he is. So
funny that you mentioned Jimmy G, Matt. The next question. The Jets should trade for Jimmy G.
I would feel bad for Jimmy G if that's what happens. The Jets are, they're just one of those organizations that I just feel like they're comfortable with what they do, which is losing. They're comfortable with it. Like, I don't know if you guys watch Hard Knocks or not, but I've always liked watching Hard Knocks. And the season that they had the Browns, and Jarvis Landry was on there, and he told the wide receiver room, this organization is used to losing, and you guys are comfortable with it, and that's a cancer. It's a cancer, and it needs to stop. The Jets, I feel like they're in that same boat. They're used to losing. They're comfortable with it. They don't mind it. It's not a trust the process. It's just it starts with the ownership and goes all the way down. And if they go and get Jimmy G, is it really going to help that much? Who's he going to throw it to? Himself? He's going to throw it and then run down the field and catch it. I mean, they have enough that they can go out and get someone better than Jimmy G. I mean, if they want to stick to what they're doing, yeah, go ahead and get them and be the same old Jets that they are. So,
Bill?
Okay, so I'm going to try.
I see you leaned back. You got comfortable to answer this.
I'm going to try to be nice. Okay, so James, you and I are old enough. I was a small child the last time the Jets were really a good football team. Now, they had a brief little flare-up when the big tuna came there and brought Vinny Testaverde and probably Pepper Johnson. He seemed to take him everywhere with him. And, a few other guys, and they rallied around it. And then unfortunately, Vinny tore his Achilles, and they got moved out of the playoffs, and the Big Tuna left town, and that was kind of the end of. I mean, they had a little flare up. They flare up. They did play in a few championship games with Mark Sanchez of all people, and Rex Ryan, and putting his best foot forward, as they say. And they had a little bit of a mini run there, but they haven't put it all together as a franchise since the merger. Okay, so it's been a minute, right? Whether or not they're comfortable, whether or not they sort of are okay with losing, they're just damn good at it. Let's just say that much. And so somebody was talking about like hitting the reset button. They just leave their finger on the reset button. They don't even try to take their finger off the reset button. It's been their fingers. They should have that when you drive to the facility. Our finger has been on the reset button since the Bush administration. That's what it should say as you're driving it. So if you think Jimmy Garoppolo is the answer, you're asking the wrong question. Because what exactly is Jimmy Garoppolo going to do? Jimmy Garoppolo has come from one of the most quarterback-friendly systems in the history of football. I mean, I've been watching football a really long time. To me, it's on the short list of if you're a quarterback and you get a chance. I mean, if Russell's trying to push his way out, that's where he should be trying to push his way too. He must look at that system and think, I mean, it's so perfectly balanced. Their offensive line is great. Their receivers aren't superstars, but they're geniuses that run after the catch. So you can throw a 6-yard pass and it turns into 22 yards. It's just so perfect, so beautiful to watch. And the blocking is amazing. It is just, oh my God. And Jimmy Garoppolo has managed to get to a Super Bowl. Now, let's not take that away from him, right? I mean, it was to be fair. But in that Super Bowl, it was revealed that Jimmy Garoppolo was, in fact, Jimmy Garoppolo. And if you have Jimmy Garoppolo as your quarterback, it's not impossible to win a Super Bowl. I'll make it very clear. But you have to do everything right at every other position. Your team has to be pretty close to perfect at everything else if you're going to win with what I call a restrictor plate quarterback. You guys follow NASCAR? No, okay, well, I won't explain a restrictor plate, but essentially it's something that allows your car to go to a certain speed and then slows your car down just enough that you don't crash, right? And when you have a restrictor plate quarterback, you can go fast enough to get into the playoffs, maybe even win a playoff game, maybe win a couple playoff games, but you can't win a Super Bowl because at some point that restrictor plate is going to restrict your team to, hey, good season. Hey, you got to a Super Bowl. Oh, that's Pat Mahomes. You're going home. Brady, nope, you're out of here, right? I mean, if that guy is going to be the difference because your quarterback is going to do just enough to get you beat. And so if somehow Kirk Cousins got to a Super Bowl, I can predict what the outcome would be. 15 or 24 for 197 yards, 2 interceptions, a lost fumble, and 1 touchdown. Book it. So Jimmy Garoppolo, he simply has certain limitations, restrictions. Pick a term. What do you like? If you are bringing him in, it's saying we hate our current quarterback. That's what you're basically saying. Because this guy is not good, but he's not you. That's what you're saying to your quarterback you have now. Well, he's not you, right? Because that's all you really try to do. You're saying we hate you so much that we're going to just barely upgrade and overpay for it too and still enjoy it because it won't be you.
Well, now let's talk about my favorite division, the AFC North. Bill, the Ravens, they should sign Jonnu Smith.
Oh, because that's what they need is more tight ends. I don't know if you've noticed. I mean, they're not quite with the Patriots with signing every tight end available, but they've got a decent number of tight ends. That's not the problem on their team. The lack of tight end depth, not really an issue. That's not the thing that's killing the team. I like Jonnu Smith. He's a really good athlete. He's a quote-unquote move tight end. He doesn't give you much as a blocker, obviously, but good route runner, good after the catch. Can throw a little block downfield every now and again. He's basically, once again, a big wide receiver. But what they really could use is an actual wide receiver. Like Jonnu Smith, unless he's going to actually be playing wide receiver, doesn't really solve the problem for them. They need to make some changes to their actual offense because they have an offense that it's like it traveled through time from 1986 to here. And it's cool to see a 1986 offense because almost no one else still does that. What? Fullback? What's that, right? I mean, these things that I enjoy because I was watching football in 1986. But the way the game is played now, like when the Chiefs fall down 17 points, like even in the Super Bowl, when they were down whatever, we were like, well, it's the Chiefs. They'll be all right, right? If that's the Ravens, you don't say they're going to be all right. When the Ravens are down 17 points, it's like, get them next week, right? I mean, some teams just aren't built to come back, and the Ravens are one of those teams. They go down about 3 scores. That's it. That's all. And Jonnu Smith doesn't change that, right? I like him as a player, but is he the guy that's going to change your offense? I don't think so. If he were, he wouldn't be available.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, tight end is not the problem. I definitely agree. They actually have some really good top tier tight ends.
They have a bunch of tight ends.
Yeah, they actually are really set at that. I mean, I'm just disappointed that Dez is leaving. I mean, damn, your best wide receiver right there. But he says he still wants to play. Hey, let him play. I mean, he'll get 1 or 2 catches a game. I mean,
maybe Tom will take him too.
There you go. Exactly. Tom will help him win a Super Bowl. Why not? Yeah, wide receivers definitely what is needed for the Ravens. Oh my goodness. Like they I know they're heavy run based, because they have Lamar and they have, their, heavy set running back sets, in the sense of like they have running backs that run people over. They don't try to avoid getting hit. They look to like run you over type of thing. So yeah, Brown is like all right. He kind of almost reminds me of like a Tavon Austin type of thing. He's got the speed and he can get down the field to get open on those deep passes, but he's not very versatile at, all the positions. You need a wide receiver that you can line up anywhere basically and, be able to make plays. So, yeah, tight end, not a problem. Wide receiver definitely needs a upgrade.
Let's go to the Bengals. Matt, they should trade out of the first round.
No. They are keeping their finger firmly pressed on the reset button as well. So they still need a lot, for what's going on with them. Trying to not get their future face of the franchise killed every year, so they need help on offensive line. They need help on defense. Wide receivers aren't too bad, actually. They're pretty all right. The running back is good. So yeah, offensive line, definitely. Oh my goodness. Just protect that poor young man that is throwing the ball for them.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, when Russell Wilson puts together his list, one of the teams that isn't on his list is the Bengals. I mean, I think just so you know. I mean, that's one of the few offensive lines where Russell Wilson's like, okay, at least you guys aren't them. I mean, that's one of the I mean, I watched a fair amount of that team. And first of all, hats off to Joe Burrow. That guy, good God, his heart does not pump Kool-Aid. That dude, I would want to be in a foxhole with that dude. He is. There's no. That guy is tough. That is a tough young man. he didn't back down. He didn't act like he was afraid. He stood in there and got absolutely poleaxed week in and week out. I mean, I really at one point thought about calling PETA. It was just, I mean, some of the things I saw happen. Oh my God. I mean, I had to get in the ice tub after watching some of those Bengals games. So, I mean, what they should be accumulating draft picks. Like it's the reverse of what you just said, James. Like, hey, you guys got some picks you don't want to use. I mean, once again, what's the advantage of being a terrible football team? You need everything. But what's better than being a terrible football team is being a terrible football team that's set at quarterback. So now you need everything else. So at least you don't need that one thing. You got one thing set. You got one thing right. You got that set. Now you need everything else. Now, Joe Mixon is a solid young running back. As I pointed out, their wide receiver core is young and talented. And what's up, AJ Green? Green isn't young, and he's probably not coming back, but we'll see. But the rest of them are very young and very talented. They have a couple of young tight ends. Well, Eifert's not young, but the others are young. Well, Eifert's moved wrong, I guess. So now it's Uzoma and the other one. I can't remember. The other guy is like 22, 23. So they're young pretty much everywhere. It's a very young team. Once you get past Geno Atkins and AJ Green, I think almost everyone else on the roster is not able to rent a car yet. So you've got, the nucleus of a young, some young stuff there. But yeah, they need pretty much, outside of the things I mentioned, they need everything else. They're probably going to have to replace Geno Atkins. They have, some wide receivers. I'd probably add at least one more if AJ Green's not coming back. And then they need everything else. They need every position on the offensive line, every single one of them. There's not a single one of those guys I would want in front of me. I'm sorry, but no, not a single. I watched, and there was games where I would just watch their line, and I saw technique mistakes. I saw mental errors. I saw guys that get physically overpowered. I mean, all the things you don't want to see. I saw some of that. I saw one play where actually guys were blocking each other, which is not what you want. I saw guys miss their landmarks and miss their targets, and they were going out on pulls and going out on things like screen passes, overrunning their landmarks, or just. I mean, it was just so much. So, in my mind, all of them have to go. Now, maybe you can't get rid of all of them at once, but I would be a goal between now and, say, if not, maybe by this draft next year to have replaced all of them. Maybe not this draft, but the one following, to have tried to replace all of them. Unfortunately, they do have some good guys on the defensive line, but some of them are on the, that's where they have a little bit of age. So some of the older players are probably not coming back. But I would keep some of the young guys. Carl Lawson, whatever I got to do to keep him, I'm going to do that. If you have to extend him. They should have the cap space once they cut some of the older players. And then I'm just drafting my brains out. And if I can get low-priced young free agents, I'm throwing them in there too because they're probably better than what I've got.
Let's go to my favorite team, the Clowns. Browns, excuse me. They should trade Baker Mayfield. Bill.
Okay, so two things have to happen for a trade to take place. One, you have to have someone who wants the player you're trying to trade. And then two, you have to have someone who can replace the player you're trying to trade. So here's the problem with that. I don't think either of those two things are the case. So I don't know how that's supposed to happen. I don't think there's people knocking down the door for Baker Mayfield, at least not yet. Now, if he has another really good year, that might change. Two, and then you're going to play who at quarterback exactly? I mean, I've checked out their roster. They don't have that guy. So they would have to still replace a quarterback. Now, unless someone's going to trade you back a quarterback, and I don't know what kind of sense that would make, but I guess if somebody just has, back when Wentz was floating out there, that kind of made sense because they just needed to get out from that contract. But all the guys who are cap casualty type quarterbacks, like sort of like what happened with Stafford, and definitely 100% what happened with Wentz, have been dealt with, right? I mean, are the Texans going to trade you Deshaun Watson? I mean, what do you mean? Like, how is it supposed to work? So you have two issues. One, you have to find somebody who wants to trade for Baker Mayfield, and then two, you have to have somebody's got to play quarterback. I mean, you can't literally be in, like. I mean, I don't know what you would do. I mean, otherwise, like, you're gonna, like, we're just gonna light up like one of the running backs back there, like the Dolphins did for a while with Tony Sparano when we had Ronnie Brown in Wildcat all the time. I mean, they don't have a quarter. I mean, no offense to the quarterbacks they have on the roster other than Baker Mayfield, but you would be very appreciative of Baker Mayfield if you decided to run some of those dudes out there to play, I guess is what I'm saying.
What do you think, Matt?
Baker Mayfield. Is he a quarterback that is going to put you over the top to, be able to win like in the clutch? I don't think so. I compare him almost like a Jimmy G, where they did so well with him this year because he had one of the two best running backs, duos in the NFL in Chubb and Hunt. The run game opened up so much for him that it took a lot of pressure off of him. He didn't have as much pressure to be able to put it on his shoulders, because when it did, we kind of saw what type of quarterback Baker Mayfield was. Do the Browns want to get rid of him? No. I think they like him just because of his mentality and his charisma and his, winning attitude. He does have a winning attitude. He likes to win. And he wants to be first. He wants to win. I would replace Baker Mayfield's name in there with this sentence with OBJ. I think they need to trade away OBJ, because once OBJ went down, they actually were doing better, and they were getting a lot more productivity out of their wide receivers because they weren't trying to get OBJ involved all the time. They weren't trying to get him the ball. Landry, started playing better. He was getting better looks. So I feel like out of everyone that the Browns could trade and actually get some good capital from, and like Bill said, what team actually wants them, I think there would be some teams that would actually want OBJ. So if I'm playing the field of trading for the Browns, I'm keeping Baker Mayfield because, like Bill said, I don't think there's too many teams that actually want him. And I'm looking to trade OBJ instead and try to get some good draft capital from him.
I mean, I'm a big Kyle Lauletta fan, but do you think you're going to start him? I mean, Case Keenum, I'm a big fan of his. Is that the guy you're going to start? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but you have to have somebody play quarterback.
Yeah, and their mentality is definitely going to be different than a Baker Mayfield. The confidence level is not going to be the same. So, if you want a leader, someone that's in the huddle is going to be like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. A true leader. Baker Mayfield has those characteristics of a great leader. He kind of has the intangibles that teams want, characteristic wise. But he doesn't have the abundance of talent that a lot of these other quarterbacks have, that when it's on the line that quarterback's going to get it done for you. And I can't really say that about Baker Mayfield, at least not right now. He could prove me wrong in the future.
Well, the good news is he'll finally be in the same system 2 years in a row. So maybe we'll see him take a jump, like many guys do when they get a second year in the same system.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm going to stick with you here and talk about my Steelers. And, you guys talk about having guys in your foxhole. I wouldn't mind having Big Ben in my foxhole. I just don't know if I want him to throw the hand grenade.
Join the analogy fest. Join it. There you go, James.
So, what do you think, Matt? The Steelers, they should trade up for Trey Lawrence.
Oh, I mean, I don't think they have enough to be able to convince anyone to be able to trade up to get him. Would they love that? Oh yeah, they would 100% would love to do something like that. Do they have the ability to? I don't think so. They made the announcement today that Big Ben is now signed with the Steelers. They restructured his contract like we talked about in the previous episode. I think they said it was going to free up like 14 million or 13 million or something like that. Um,
I think he took 14 million, which would only give them probably about 5 million on the salary cap. Actually,
okay.
I think he took 14 million instead of what he was due, and it did free up some money on the salary cap. Of course, you also had some with Pouncey, retiring, but yeah, like you said, I mean, sometimes smoke and mirrors work. I mean, maybe you throw Mason Randolph in there as you know hey, we'll give you Mason Randolph and Dwayne Haskins and and Big Ben as a matter of fact.
Three
But
for one deal.
What a deal,
yeah,
man! What a deal! All three in just a bundle. Great.
yeah,
We can't give you in quality. We're going to give you in quantity.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, three of a kind. Come on, man. So what if they're deuces? It doesn't matter. I mean, it's three of a kind.
I mean,
but
it was. Sorry to cut you off there. I was just gonna say. I mean, it's great that he was willing to restructure just to like save some money, and he's gonna stay on the team. I think the Steelers really wanted him to. They want him to retire as a Steeler, obviously.
then give him a 1-day contract and send him home. That's just me. Okay.
Right? Yeah. I mean, if it was me, yeah, I would definitely be looking to move on. The time is now to find a successor because you're running out of time to do it. So you need to start prepping and start trying to think of something to do it. Because obviously you're committing and you're saying that, hey, we want you to lead the team. We want you to ride off into the sunset like Peyton Manning and win a Super Bowl your last season before you retire, but not everyone can do what Peyton Manning did because, that defense was, ungodly that he was on when they won it, so high hopes. Big Ben has high hopes. The team has high hopes for him, but I think they're going to be disappointed in what's a tough division to be playing in right now.
Matt, as always, man, we send you an open invitation. I send you a link. You come, that's fine. So, and I'll always send you, the script for the program. And unfortunately, we seem to like this Truth or Dare so much that we played it for 2 hours. But anyway, that's
a lot to talk about.
Hey, I'm glad I can keep the show interesting, and you guys are able to talk, so that that's one good thing about it. But Matt, give us your final thoughts for the evening. Tell everybody how they can find you, and if you send me an email, and I'm sure Bill, if you send us an email, we'll be glad to come on your podcast, man. So just tell us how to get in touch with you and what we have to do. So give us your final thoughts, man.
Oh yeah, awesome. Well, as always, the podcast
Bill loves to talk, so I'm sure he'll anytime.
Well, we're trying to always get new people on because we're coming up on our 100th episode here in a couple weeks of the podcast. Me and my friend Chris, we like doing nicknames on our show. Like I said before, I'm Maddie Lukewarm Ice. He's Chris the Gorilla Binder. So he's got the nickname the Gorilla. But our podcast is called Sports Harder Podcast. Like it says, if I can point the right direction.
Yeah, there you go, right there.
So you can search for that. It's on Anchor podcast. That's where we record our episodes. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You just search Sports Harder Podcast. It'll come up. Facebook, you can look for Sports Harder Podcast, our Facebook page. We do a lot on Facebook. We're doing our March Madness Bracket Challenge. So it's called Beat the Experts. So if you can beat me and my co-host Chris the Gorilla Binder in March Madness, then you get a prize. We got some prizes for people. So everyone that beats us will get a prize of some sort. The top prize is usually artwork by a local artist in Utah. We did a Mandalorian artwork last time. This time we have the movie Tombstone artwork, personal artwork that he did. So if you go onto the Sports Harder Podcast Facebook page, there's the link there that you can click on to download the ESPN app, tournament app, and join in our March Madness contest. That's like the big thing that we're doing right now. So you guys can join in. You can go on there and click on it and participate. Try to see if you can beat me and my co-host, and we'll send some prizes your guys' way. But I definitely want you guys to come on our podcast. We do it every Friday evening. The time just varies on availability for everyone. So, whatever time you guys are available, we kind of work around it. So.
All right. Well, hey, always glad. And like I said, you have an open invitation. You'll always, so whenever you come, we'll acknowledge.
Oh, you're going to get tired of me then, man. You're going to get real tired of me. I'm going to probably come on a lot.
No worries, man. No worries. We love the conversations, and unfortunately, Demetrius, he's on a plane tonight, and Don is working with the youth. So I think Frank is still trying to catch up from last week. But hey, we had some great conversation, and we had a new guy, Roberts, tonight. So we try to keep our conversations going. Bill, I know you joined us a little late tonight, but hey, man, as always, glad to have you on the show. We look forward to it. And we know you write for everyone. Hey, it's time for your mock drafts. I know you are super busy right now. You're probably glad that there's a pandemic, so you have time to work. But
I'm not going to root for a global pandemic to make my life easier. But what I will say is this has been a great time because by this time next week, I should be reporting on something very, very big that I'll have happening with one of the big names in our business. But I've got a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire. But for me, and I think about we are in Women's History Month, and a lot has happened in the NFL. Two of the members of Bruce Arians' staff were women, and as recently as 2015, there were no female assistant coaches in the NFL. There are now 8, including multiple women of color. Jennifer King is working on Ron Rivera's staff. And in case, like I said, of Bruce Arians, he has both an assistant defensive line coach and a strength coach. The first, in fact, woman strength coach in NFL history. We have a principal owner who's a woman in Sheila Ford Hamp. Our first woman of color scout, Sally Clavel, was hired, I think, about a year ago. I know, earlier this year. So even though it's very hard, and I want to quickly shout out someone that I've gotten to know via Twitter, but we talk back and forth sometimes. And hi, Amy Trask. Amy Trask, of course, the former Princess of Darkness, as she used to be known as and call herself in her days in the Raiders organization. And we can make jokes, or have made jokes, probably about the Raiders organization, but they were very progressive in a lot of ways. First black head coach, the first Hispanic or Latino head coach, and of course, first female executive in NFL history, all under Al Davis's watch in his time with the Raiders. So at some point, I would like to get to the point where I can't count, where I don't know the names of all the women who are scouting, coaching, working in front offices. I know all their names now, right? There's only a handful of them, so I know all their names. I want to get to the point where I don't. I want to get to the point where I don't know all their names, where I don't know their backgrounds, where they came from, and all this stuff, right? I want to get to the point where it's not really newsworthy even. And when that day comes, I will be a very happy man. I have a daughter. I'm a quote unquote girl dad. My daughter doesn't really care for football, which tears my heart out. But nonetheless, I'm a proud father, and I would like, if ever my daughter should see the light and realize football is the greatest thing on the planet, and she wanted someday to work in some capacity in football, for the door to not be slammed in her face. So we have to think about, if we care about human rights, you should care about women's rights, because over half of the Earth's population, about 50.4%, the last I checked, of the Earth's population is women. There are more women on the planet than men. If you care about human progress, then you care about women's progress. If you care about the survival of our species, you should care about the status of women. So in this month where we are celebrating women, I want to celebrate the women who are in and around the NFL.
And then the
right.
first female referee for the Super Bowl.
Sarah
this
Thomas.
year, so, yep.
Sarah Thomas, yep, made history in the Super Bowl.
Hey, well, guys, I'm glad that you were able to stick around and have another wonderful night here on the Sports Crib. I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. And hey, Matt, like I said, just let us know, and I'll be glad to come on. I'm not going to promise any Grecian formula, but
Hey, come as you are. No worries.
All right, guys. You have a great night, and
You too, sir.
for our audience, hey, glad you guys could join us. Have a great weekend, and always enjoy sports. And check us out here every Thursday on the Sports Crib. Have a great night, everyone. See you next week.
Night.